We doing this. Our US men's national team, G-Leaguers, keep on keeping on. The Gold Cup. It's all about survive and advance. It's also about prison rules, dark arts, and occasional fleeting moments of football. And the United States lived it all in that quarter-final epic 4-3 penalty shootout win over a weakened, but still quite feisty Costa Rica. A 2-2 draw, in which Max Austin had a hand in, well, pretty much every single goal. And I'm not going to lie, it felt so bloody good to see us plummet towards the semi-final in St. Louis Wednesday night against 106 in the world, Guatemala. Could there be an 8th USA-Mexico Gold Cup final of all time? Or could we have Guatemala-Honduras, Field of Dreams? Who knows? Well, only one man. From ESPN and the mighty Vamos on the Men in Blazers Media Network, it's incredible to welcome back my friend, a gent whose analysis is always the one I find most fascinating to listen to and learn so bloody much from. Oh, it's Mr. Hercules Gomez.
Raj, my man, amigo, ¿cómo estás? How you doing?
I'm doing gorgeous, thank you. Just incredible to see you. Is this dripping or tripping what I'm wearing, Herc?
We were talking about this before we went on air. That is absolutely dripping. You said you managed to buy like a bunch on eBay. Do you know how much those would be worth now? Like, it's a whole culture. The chat's got to let us know if they think it's the 94 or 90, because we're having a bit of a discussion about this.
I'm pretty sure it's 90 just by the state of the polyester. It was still an era in which they didn't know about letting the players, breathe.
Does it smell more Miola? Or
this smells a mullet. This is Balboa's. There's no doubt. This is 100% prime American mustache. Herc, let's dive into the present and not the past. Big picture. Sunday night, we beat Costa Rica on a quite bombastic penalty shootout. Look, Costa Rica are not all that. We'll break down the different elements of the game in a moment. But can we just talk about the feelings that we all as fans shared in the incredible moment the game was over? The exhilaration, the relief, the Matt Freeze-inflected joy. When that smoke cleared, I realised that feeling, Herc, of happiness. It's been so bloody long since we experienced, as American fans, that kind of joy. Arguably going back to World Cup 2022, felt so good to feel alive again.
I didn't expect much out of this U.S. men's national team in this game. You mentioned Costa Rica, maybe not the strongest team, but that's a difficult game. That's a trap game and a half. You asked me before what I thought the scoreline was going to be, who I thought would advance. I thought it'd be a 0-0, 1-1, and Costa Rica would advance on penalty kicks. I told you that. And here Costa Rica was maybe 2 inches to the left, and it's a Martinez golazo at the end. And we're having a different discussion, even though the U.S. men's national team, albeit some defensive errors, and we'll get into it, they actually played very well. I thought it was their best showing at this Gold Cup. You mentioned that they were G-Leaguers. Fair. They're going to make mistakes, but they got to show you something. And in this game, there were players who showed us something, and also Pochettino who showed us something. So while it's important to note the circumstances of how they advanced. And I think for every American fan, that's an important thing, to feeling that pride again, like, hey, we have something to play for.
This is, listening to you, the CONCACAF Gold Cup of trap games, as we will discuss. But it felt so bloody good. Really, I read a phrase, I was reading an article today about what Oasis in England felt like in the late 1990s, how culture felt like it was sparking. And there was a quote that it felt like there was the brightness of things happening. And that's what it felt like in that final whistle. It's what we dreamed of with this squad, this young, raw squad. We wanted to see, I think Pochettino wanted to see Herc.
Are you telling me Poch and Pulisic are breaking up? Is that what you're telling me?
And then they're going to get back together again, like Noel and Liam. They're going to get back on tour together. Get it back. Poch is definitely on guitar, right? Champagne Supernova. And Pulisic's just banging the tambourine and singing into the microphone.
It's got to be what he's doing. If he's singing into anything, it's definitely the microphone.
God, the brightness of things happening. And that's what we want on our men's football side, the brightness, the sense of possibility, the spark again. So let's start where we need to start. Can we praise Matt Freeze? What a performance. 3 big saves in the shootout. He said post-game, penalties are my thing. I love that. It could have only been more American if he said penalties are my jam. But let's start there, because his statement was honest. But it's also, it could be seen as a tell. On one hand, this could be the moment in which we start to build the mythology. Matt Freeze, a.k.a. Harvard Donnarumma, earned the starting spot for this World Cup in that Costa Rica game. But that phrase, penalties are my thing, is the other part of the job. You know, the consistent goalkeeping. Is that his thing too? Or do we know enough about his ability to do that at the international level to even answer the question?
We don't know enough. The body of work isn't there yet. And that's not a bad thing. I think you need to earn that. And his mistake against Haiti isn't a bad thing. I actually like seeing mistakes because I want to see how players react. That tells me more about a player than the actual mistake. Is how you react from those mistakes. This is a big boy performance from Matt Fries. There's maybe another player or two that he wasn't at fault. There's the Max Arfston and Luca De La Torre's second goal involvement where he maybe wants to give up that rebound in a different place, but you can't pin that on Matt Fries.
It was a me-bound. It's what they call it in the WNBA.
I'm going to keep that one in the docket there. It's one that he's going to want back. But when you get into the penalty kicks, there was no more confident player in those penalty kicks than Matt Fries. And his counterpart, by the way, it wasn't Sequeira who was the backup Costa Rican goalkeeper. It was a legend of the game in Keylor Navas, a 3-time Champions League winner, has an argument, a legit argument for the best player in CONCACAF's history, who was his counterpart, and he outshined Keylor Navas. And that's saying something, Raj.
See a confident Matt Fries, and Matt Fries with no doubts, with no imposter syndrome. It's going to be fascinating watching him for the rest of the tournament. There's no doubt he can build that narrative now. It's in his hands. I do want to give quick hat tip, but he deserves it to Matt Turner. Give him some love. It can't be easy being Matt Turner, sitting on the bench, crying out for playing time, getting that much playing time. But when Diego Luna scored the goal, it was just a measure of the man. To see who stormed off the bench first, his face beaming with utter joy. Great guy, great team player. Huge respect to Matt Turner.
It's not easy, and you could only imagine what Matt Turner's thinking when this game goes into penalty kick shootouts, where he's like, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is who I am. This is how I've made my bread and butter throughout my career, and most notably known in my debut with the U.S. men's national team is I was this guy in penalty kicks, and he's got to see Matt Fries shine there. It's not an easy thing for any player, but like any good teammate, he was there for his team. So shout out to Matt Turner. By the way, is there anything more American than Matt Fries doing like a thesis, his university thesis at Harvard on stopping penalty kicks? Like that to me is the most American thing about his performance. It's like he was ready for it because he studied it.
Harvard Matt Fries. I love it. I love it. The most American thing was when he screamed at Keylor Navas when he did that third save. How about them apples? You earned the right to do that, baby. I love you, Harvard Donnarumma. Quick question about the defensive side of things. Very quick. One from the Men in Blazers' new Discord channel from @RainbowYoda who wrote in, Herc, Tim Ream, age 37. Is he really going to be our starting centre-back in the World Cup? It means we either have to sit deep or we're going to have young speedsters devour us.
I don't see anybody taking his spot right now. World Cup Qatar 2022 ended, and I thought immediately his time was done. It's time to usher in the next generation. I always had Chris Richards, even though he wasn't there in Qatar as a starter, as being the guy that's CB1. Who's going to be CB2? And yet nobody wants to take it away from Tim Ream, or maybe nobody is capable from taking it away from Tim Ream. But he's so important. Leadership is a given. He's composed in the way he speaks. The players seem to look up to him. But there's nobody that you want on the ball building out of the back if you're a U.S. men's national team fan or pundit than Tim Ream. Now, how do you disguise Tim Ream in what could be a defensive liability? Not that he's not a good defender, but age catches up to us all. Is you can't allow him to be isolated 1v1. Well, there might be a situation where Pochettino has two defensive midfielders with more defensive responsibilities instead of two-way possibilities sitting in front of Tim Ream. And the group draw is going to, I think, determine a lot of Tim Ream's playing on this national team. If you think you're going to be constantly tested defensively by players of a certain stature or certain cloth that can stretch you, maybe Tim Ream's not your guy. But if you think you're going to have a little bit more of that lion's share of the ball or need to organize a bit more, Tim Ream's your guy. I don't see anybody right now taking his place. Raj, I can't for the life of me say this guy deserves an opportunity over Tim Ream, and that may be a scary thing.
Tim Ream's going to retire whenever he wants, and that, I think, will be after the 2034 World Cup. But before we go any further, Herco, announcement for anyone watching and listening out there. We are doing live shows right here in New York City to celebrate the semi-finals of the Club World Cup. It's going to be quite beautiful. It's going down actually at the Michelob Ultra Pitside Club, which is pretty spectacular. I was just there yesterday. It's in Midtown Manhattan. We're going to do live shows Tuesday, Wednesday, before, during, and immediately after those semi-finals with you, asking Rory Smith, the magical bard of Harrogate, who's coming over to join us for a series of these special broadcasts. He'll be watching both of those games, hopefully with you, at the Ultra Pitchside Club. July 8th to 13th, that's open, but we'll be there for both of the semi-finals. We'll do a live show the night before the final. Details and RSVP link are in the description of this pod on YouTube. Come and be with us. It's going to be quite special. But Herc, let's talk about the big player of the night. It's Malik Tillman. Again, hot Tillman summer continues. GFOP Gil Rutledge wrote me a raven, which he entitled Tillmania, and I love that term because I do think that's what we're living. On Sunday, Tillman was really the heartbeat of the team. He won a penalty, missed a penalty, but was big enough to raise his game, provide, I think, roughly 87% of our forward motion, and then kept his nerve when returning to that penalty spot at the end during the shootout. Yesterday morning, Fabrizio Romano announced Malik's rise in Europe continues. $40 million transfer to Bayer Leverkusen has been agreed. Here we go. But Herc, here's a question. Has he only looked good in this tournament, Malik Tillman, because the quality of opponent is not so much? Is it, I guess I'm asking, akin to me declaring myself to be a really good UFC fighter if I start to organise rumbles between me and a handful of 2-year-olds?
Well, those 2-year-olds are in trouble because there's a belt on the line. That's all I got to say there.
Yeah, my ground game's not so good, though.
But what I'm going with that is you can only prove yourself in front of who you have to prove yourself. So it's like saying, well, were Landon Donovan and Clint Dempsey only good because they played against CONCACAF opposition? What's who you have to prove yourself against? And these guys not only proved it against CONCACAF oppositions, but when they got to World Cups, they were like, hey, England, Ghana, Portugal, like these teams, Mexico, I'm going to show you that I'm also good enough. So take it with a grain of salt of who he's playing against. But if we look at his club level, if we look at his club form, his rise, my God, Rangers goes there and kills it. 2 years at PSV, easily one of their best players. Now he's got a 40 million euro plus transfer fee to Bayern Leverkusen, which is a German giant. And he's now finally putting together with the national team, with a coach who has confidence in him. If there's a coach during Malik Tillman's tenure with the national team who has shown to have confidence in him, it's Mauricio Pochettino. I hope people don't confuse Malik Tillman for Florian Wirtz. They don't think he's the replacement to Florian Wirtz at Bayer Leverkusen. That's going to be a mistake. And number two, coming from a United fan, I'm hoping Erik ten Hag doesn't ruin him. but this man has shown that he rises to the occasion at the club level. So I'm hoping he's tied it together and he is who we thought he was.
He is who he thought he was, the player of our dreams, the player of Pochettino's dreams. Poch wanted players to rise up, to show themselves in this window, so that when that squad, the full strength squad, please God, Avenger assembles in the next international window, he can shake it up. He can try and scrape away the complacency by saying there's new starters in town. There's new starters. So the question for you is, in that scenario, if he is, like every manager has their player. I remember Carl Beckerman used to say, my God, Jurgen Klinsmann chose me. I'm like Jurgen's player. You were a Bob Bradley player at the end of the day. Who does he replace?
Gio Reyna. And I think Gio Reyna has already been replaced in Mauricio Pochettino's eyes. Think about who can realistically come in out of this Gold Cup camp and say, hey, next camp with the A team, I could slide into that 11. It's probably Malik Tillman and maybe the goalkeeper position because that door is wide open. But field players, Malik Tillman's the only player right now that could realistically slide into that 11. And you would say, yeah, I could actually see that because who else do you have in that 10 position? Where's Giovanni Reyna? There are milk cartons with his face on it. I'm still looking for Gio Reyna. So unless Gio Reyna makes a move and gets on the good graces of Mauricio Pochettino, comes in and proves himself, this is de facto his Malik Tillman's position to lose. It really is.
God bless you, Gio Reyna. May you honestly rise again. I can't imagine mentally what he's going through right now. But big picture, looking at that game on Sunday, you've already said it, and I do want to acknowledge this, the quality of the performance. Where are you on that? Because, as you said, if that Martinez, just that instinctive snapshot in the, 85th minute? If it had been like a centimetre to the left and not hit the post, we'd be here mourning A wasted summer. We'd be sitting here utterly stunned. When you look at the quality of our performance, what we were able to do, what Costa Rica were able to do to us, can you sum it up for us before we dive into the different elements?
There's just margins in this game, Raj, that are so fine, so small, that define who you are and define the outcomes. There's a saying in Spanish, my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. If the U.S. men's national team weren't bailed out by Poland in 2002, they don't go on to that game against Mexico, and they don't go on to the quarterfinals. And then in the quarterfinals, if Greg Berhalter doesn't have Torsten Frings block a header on the goal line, it's the U.S. men's national team who are probably going through to a semifinal. Like, the margins are so thin. And it's the same thing here. The last time I recall an undermanned U.S. men's national team winning this competition was the C team, where Matthew Hoppe was a starter up top, and Jesse Sardes against Mexico's A team, Tata Martino, the downfall of Tata Martino, the beginning of that dark age process for the Mexican national team in Las Vegas, Nevada, with the Miles Robinson goal. So the margins are so small. And Costa Rica, such a difficult team to play against. I repeat, difficult team, and people will never understand how complex, and they don't want to hear it, because it's CONCACAF, but it's complex. The refereeing, the opponents, the styles, the travel, the humidity, all these things are very complex. But you advanced, I think, dominating the game in a way that you've not done in Mauricio Pochettino's tenure. So now it gives you hope. And now you have something to cling on to. But now you have to keep it going, because the opponent's not going to be easy.
By the way, Clint Dempsey, in our post-match YouTube live that we did on the Deuce, he said something similar to you. He said this team in the locker room, he said, knowing they'd taken a punch and risen up nonetheless stronger, he said they'll feel a surging optimism. This was his quote. He said, "We learned who's got that mettle to emerge when your back is against the wall. And when you come out of these moments, it builds chemistry as a team. Everyone's going to be fighting more, understanding they're just 2 games away from mission accomplished. You need these type of moments." Do you agree?
Absolutely. What an opportunity. What a moment to galvanize each other and to take on a mentality of us versus the world. Oh, we're the C team? Oh, we're the guys who aren't good enough? But we're the guys who want to be here. And this is the coach who trusts in us to be here. So we're not good enough to win this competition, but we're 90 minutes away from going to a final that nobody thinks we could even get to or win. And what? And in that final, if we get to it, we're going to play against Honduras, who was embarrassed by Canada in the first game, 5-0, or one of the worst Mexican teams that we've seen in our lifetime. And you're realistically saying we've got no opportunity? This is an opportunity for them to say, the hell with that. It's us versus everybody. And if they can do that, knowing the fan base, any fan base, they're going to get behind you. If you can prove to the fan base that you're worth getting behind, the fan base is going to get behind you. At the end of the day, it's a trophy.
It's what we need. We need that reconnection. We need that belief to kindle again. And I want to shout out a couple of big moments, a couple of big players stepping up. Damien Downs, we joked after the whistle that the Germans are always so massively clinical at the penalties. Alex Freeman's penalty, I think, was a massive moment by a very, very cool kid. Sebastian Berhalter, I ate for him. He just baggioed that penalty into the Minneapolis night. Costa Rica felt ascendant. Upstepped a 20-year-old with not a huge amount of experience at the international level. All that pressure on his shoulders could have easily, the penalty shootout could really have spiraled away from us, and he coolly, quite calmly slapped it. It was an extraordinary finish, an extraordinary moment of chill by a young gent with a real potential growth curve. I mean, you were a striker. You understood the art of penalties. That was a remarkable human moment.
It's such a mental challenge. It's you versus the goalkeeper, and many times you could say, well, how do you miss a penalty kick? How do you miss something that the probabilities are in your favor against the goalkeeper? But then you're there in the moment, under the lights, and you hear the fan base. You see the goalkeeper moving. You start second-guessing yourself. It's a mental struggle, and the toughness you have to stay composed and not feel those jitters, not feel like your knees are gum, to put it away. It's not easy. And that goes on both sides, the goalkeepers as well. But to be able to do that, and even if you miss, to be able to go up there and say, I want to shoot it. Because the players who miss are the ones who have the stones to shoot. To say, I want to shoot. I want to take this moment. And I repeat, Sebastian Berhalter missed that. And it was a moment where they cut to his family, where they would have cut to his family if they made it anyways. So I don't put that blame on the world feed or the television network. It was a moment that they saw that his family was there and that they wanted to have a reaction. And most likely it would have been a good reaction, but it wasn't. For him to take that penalty kick and miss it, I guarantee you next game, he's playing even harder. Next game, it's even more tunnel vision for him of what he wants to do and how he wants to achieve it. This is a learning moment for the U.S. players, for the Costa Ricans. It's not easy, but the ones who can overcome those nerves, I mean, the growth from this is going to be incredible. Damian Downs, the next game he plays, after surviving something like that, the confidence level is going to be on another type of platform. The same thing for Freeman. I think these are growing moments for this team. In general, in this competition, Costa Rica is one of the youngest teams in this competition. The player who missed, he's going to be thinking...
19.
Yeah. He's going to be thinking, I take this back to my club team in England. You know, hopefully I can make a first team appearance there, but I'm going to use this to learn from it.
But anyway, Sebastian Berhalter is that kind of player who probably out yesterday practicing 100, 200 penalties so that it will never, ever happen again. He's just that. I mean, something about him, it does actually remind me of Michael Bradley, that kind of ferocity.
I agree with you. Being a coach's son, you almost have to prove yourself twofold, just that you belong. And it's not an easy thing. He does seem like that type of player, which is why I'm rooting him to succeed with Mauricio Pochettino. Because if he was under his father, Greg Berhalter, we would be saying, well, is there some nepotism here? Well, does he deserve it? Well, what's going on? And I'm so glad for him that it's under Mauricio Pochettino and that he's been doing well up until that point.
He 100% deserves it. There is no doubt. And I can't wait for one of Pochettino's kids to play when BJ's the coach, future World Cup. And where we always just have just this ongoing cycle of fathers and sons. A lot of you want to have Jurgen Klinsmann's son, Jonathan, come in and take the number one gloves, which is just incredible. We've got to get, what's Bruce Arena's son?
No, Kenny now.
We've got to get Kenny Arena back in. We've got to get the band back together. But I'm digressing, Herc, and I do need to talk to you about two things about the overall play. Second half kicked off. Within seconds, I think within 2 minutes, we scored a stunning goal. It really was Patrick Adjuman and Tillman combining to lay the ball off to Austin, lashed home. It was really a lovely moment of quality collective team football, a team completely in sync on the same page with an idea of how they wanted to open up the opponents. How come we never did it again?
Let me start by saying how impressed I was with that goal. Not just the build-up play, Patrick Adjuman's hold-up, which I repeat, he's been kind of a whipping boy amongst the fan base and among certain pundits. I thought he showed very good composure, back-to-goal play, and Malik Tillman doing what he does. He's a playmaker and a very good finish for Arfston with the right foot. Where I come from, they call those locker room goals. Why? Because the coach gets in your ass and he's like, hey, this isn't going the way we want. We got to do this. And he gets you to react. That's a locker room goal. Very valuable. Why don't you do more of it? Well, the opponent, matters as well. And I actually thought they were doing very well. Like, if you look at the shots in this game, they were all over Costa Rica. They just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, but they were all over them in the final third. I thought they did very well to try to create opportunities, to generate volume, stepping into the opponent's box. It just would not go in. And that's the thing with a team like Costa Rica. If you don't put the ball in the back of the net, if you don't take advantage of these opportunities, Costa Rica was this close to winning the game. So you've got to really, hone that in and try to finish games off, to have that killer instinct. But this is a very young team, and learning that killer instinct is going to take time. And I know people don't want to hear that, but that's a reality of the game.
It's not just a killer instinct, it's what we're doing with the ball. We had a lot of the ball in this. And this is the second thing I wanted to ask you. We had 64% possession, but that midfield, LDLT, Berhalter, Tyler, Tillman, felt cumbersome. A lot of the time. They had all the ball. They did so little with it. Yeah, we can definitely get more out of this unit. We definitely can, right?
I believe so. How many times did you hear Tyler Adams' name called during the broadcast? It was very few. And for a 6, I think that's fine. It shows you that you're in control of the game. When you don't hear a lot of Tyler Adams is not the guy with the ball that's going to be threading passes, through lines, finding the 9. He's a destroyer. He's an organizer. He's a facilitator immediately. I think it's by design that they had so much possession because Costa Rica doesn't want the ball. Costa Rica doesn't have the elements in the final third or in their midfield to be proactive with the ball and hurt the U.S. men's national team. They want to go on counter. So I think by design, the U.S. had more of the ball, and that's going to limit Tyler Adams' influence. He's a ball winner, and he organizes in those transitions. I'm okay with what I saw from Tyler Adams. I'm okay with what I saw from Luka, and Sebastian Berhalter at times, because it's by design.
By the way, that penalty that he took, my heart was in my mouth.
Well, when's the last time I saw him score a goal? It was a Nations League final against Mexico where he dropped a bomb from like 30. He's going to smash this. He's going to smash this. And he just waits for him. And he's looking at him the whole time. I'm like, what are you doing? My heart was like down in my gut as well.
Let's talk about the designer. And the highlight of the night for me was watching Mauricio Pochettino in the moment of victory, just charging up to the camera, screaming, "Vamos!" right in our faces. After all of the Brentford madness of the weekend, it felt to me watching it, or I hope, this is more a hope and a projection. They talk about in politics, this was the day that Poch truly became the US manager for reals. I mean, that reaction to the win, the passion, the commitment, that was a moment. He's been such a shadow of himself all tournament. Every goal gone in, the camera should cut to him on the sideline. He's just kind of kept it all in. This was just him letting it all out quite clearly. But I think the fan base saw in that moment, God, just a sense of this matters.
Shout out to Mauricio Pochettino for being a fan of the show, the podcast Vamos. I was, look, big fan. I'm hoping, Raj, this is the moment he takes it personal. You always hear, what pressure? Mauricio Pochettino is not going to have pressure. I hear this from pundits. I work at ESPN Deportes, and I have pundits in Mexico, Central America, and they're like, what pressure? He's making $6 million a year. He's living in the U.S. when he wants to. He's not going to read about himself in the newspaper every day. Where are the results? What pressure? So I'm hoping internally he feels pride. He feels like he's in debt with the federation, with the fan base. And I think a lot of that, why you saw that emotion, is because now he's taking it personal. Because he really wants to win. Because he really wants to show maybe himself that he could change, he could transform this national team. So, albeit Costa Rica, that matters to him. And that to me is important.
I do hope that this is a turning point, Herc. I really, really do. I mean, I try to look at it from his perspective, taking over the team at this kind of mid-cycle time, a really difficult time of inertia almost in the programme. The fan base disinterest. I know from the players, they can't stand taking the field in an empty stadium. It must be shocking to him coming from Argentina. The learning curve. There's no doubt the learning curve is massive. CONCACAF is just a different world. The fields, the argy-bargy on the field, the penalty spot halfway through the shootout was like a golf divot in this one. Jurgen Klinsmann always used to say this to me. He used to say CONCACAF is like nothing you've ever seen in football until you get here. The way he described it, compared to UEFA and his European experience, it was almost like a parallel universe. Poch is learning as much as his young players are, Herc.
Absolutely. I think the rest of the world right now watching the Club World Cup is going on. What's going on here? Wait. They laid a grass field on turf 3 days ago? Wait. Why are they playing if it's so hot? What's a refreshment break? Wait a second. Why is the game being suspended? Because of lightning? And this is just in North America. CONCACAF in general is very complex. I had this discussion with my colleagues. If you've never played in San Pedro Sula, under the sun, with the grass up to your knees, with the fan base that's on top of you, if you've never gone to Mexico City and have to deal with the altitude and smog combination, if you've never, been to San Jose, if you've never played on a cricket field, in a cricket stadium during a monsoon against Antigua and Barbuda in a tropical storm.
Have you really lived?
Have you really lived, Raj?
The way you just described it, it sounds like Ernest Hemingway would have loved CONCACAF, just the way you've just described these things.
He spent time in Cuba, so yes.
I mean, it's a different universe, Herc, which leads me to think, if CONCACAF is a different universe, and you've just made the case that it is. Even though these are our last competitive games, our precious last competitive games until the World Cup kicks off, how much can the likes of Costa Rica, Guatemala prepare us for any kind of measure of the World Cup challenges to come?
Let's not focus so much on the opponent. Let's focus on the platform. Let's focus on the pressure. Let's focus on the moment these players are going to be in. You can arguably say, and you'll have the ranking, that I believe Guatemala is 106, 107?
106, yeah. Wow.
106.
Yeah.
Should not be, by any means, a formidable opponent for the U.S. men's national team, who will be a host country in the next World Cup. This shouldn't be a competitive game. Guatemala had to qualify for this tournament. Guatemala still hasn't qualified for the World Cup. There's no way they should be a strong opponent for you. And yet, I think it's going to be a massive test. And yet, you may be the home team because it's your country, but I don't know if you're the home team in the stadium. I don't know if you're going to have more of the fan base. And those players, these players who want to make a name for themselves to be in the World Cup in 2026, how many of them, Raj, have honestly played in an atmosphere that's pro a different country? How many of them have played in an international semifinal to be 90 minutes away from a continental final? I think this is a big moment for a lot of these players, and it's very easy to look down on Guatemala for what we see on paper, but I think it's going to be a big test.
I'm looking at the FIFA rankings, the esteemed FIFA rankings. Guatemala are 106, but you wouldn't know it from the way they played. What a delirious run this Guatemalan team have had. 106 in the world. They've been honestly a clenched fist in this tournament. They've unleashed one upset at a time. They're in the semi-final for the first time, I think, since 1996. They stunned Canada in penalty kicks, emerging from Group C with wins over Jamaica and Guadeloupe. I mean, they're a fascinating story here. They're key players. They're difference makers, really. American-born talent like Rubio Rubin, who made a one-time switch after representing the US. Their brain, their coach, is a Mexican, Luis Fernando Tena. When you watch them, what do you see? Tell us about them as a footballing narrative.
You know, I see a team that's taking pride in second chances. This Guatemalan side have never been to a World Cup. This Guatemalan side just got their lottery for this World Cup and put in a very complicated group. Well, they're probably going to come out third best just on paper, and many of their pundits think so as well, but now have galvanized their fan base to believe that something is possible. And everywhere they've been, they've filled up these stadiums. These American-born players, Rubio Rubin, he's a pride of Beaverton, Oregon. It's Nike and Rubio Rubin. That's what it is. You got players on this team that are born in Boston, in New Mexico, like Aaron Herrera. You know, you got Navarro, who was a second-choice goalkeeper, who comes in for an injured Nico Hausen in their last game against Canada. You've got Luis Fernando Tena, and he is a coach who brought a gold medal to Mexico in the 2012 Olympic Games in London, and he can't coach in Mexico, goes to Guatemala, finds himself in a good situation, and now he's one of the longest tenured coaches in CONCACAF, and he's got Guatemala in a semifinal for only the third time in their history. They've already beaten Jamaica for the first time in 15 years, Canada for the first time like in 12, 13 years, something like that. And now they're looking to beat the U.S. on home soil, and Guatemala has never beaten the U.S. men's national team on home soil, ever. This is a team playing their best football at the best possible time, who are now going to be fully supported like maybe only Mexico can be in this tournament. In St. Louis, I can't sit here and tell you in Soccer City, USA, self-proclaimed St. Louis, there are going to be more U.S. men's national team fans in that stadium. Guatemalan fans have proven they can sell out stadiums in this competition.
I mean, it is incredible. I want to talk about the fans in one moment. This is, to me, the ultimate trap game, because mentally, these Guatemalan players will take the field knowing they have absolutely nothing to lose. All the pressure is on the United States. For many in Central America, the 2025 Gold Cup is more than a tournament. It really is their World Cup. They may not qualify for the World Cup. This is the game, set, and match, isn't it?
This is it for them. This would be the greatest achievement in Guatemalan footballing history if they win this Gold Cup. If they beat the U.S. men's national team. This Guatemalan team is playing with house money. This game should be in Las Vegas because they're playing with the belief in house money. Like, they've achieved everything they needed to achieve in this Gold Cup. There could be no wrong. No harm can be done to them or their fan base, even if they lose. And playing against a team with nothing to lose that is dangerous.
Can I just say, to me, the Guatemalan fans, those who love and live for Los Chapines. What is that, Herc? That's grasshoppers.
Yes, sir. And listen, they may not have a lot of footballing history, but they know the U.S. and their biggest product, their Michael Jordan, is Carlos El Pescadito Ruiz, and he was a damn good footballer. And they've not produced a footballer like him since. But this current generation is proving that together they can equal to some of those parts. Together they can beat greater footballing nations like they've already have in this tournament.
I mean, I'll say the fans of Guatemala are the winners of this Gold Cup, no matter the final score. But what needs to change for this US team if they're going to be successful in this one? Stylistically, tactically, footballingly?
I think Guatemala is going to give them a lion's share of the ball like Costa Rica did. So it's what you do with the ball and how you can take advantage of the key moments in a game. Every football match, 90 minutes, will have a moment where if you can score a goal, you dictate. Where you have an opportunity that you create for yourself can change the course of a game. And if you can take advantage of that, you put yourself in pole position. But if not, if you leave a team like Guatemala hanging around like Canada did, and I know that the red card to Jacob Schaffelberg completely conditioned that game, but if you give a team like Guatemala a reason to fight, a reason to stick around, they're going to make you pay. You can't give them a reason to stick around. You're going to have possession. You're going to have opportunities. You have to put them away. You have to find that killer instinct, because if you don't, if you keep a team like Guatemala hanging around, a team that's proven that without the ball, they can hurt you. On set pieces, they can hurt you. Playing long, they can hurt you. In pure fight and physicality, you're going to get hurt if you play with fire. So put them away when you get a chance.
Herc, you predicted the Costa Rica game would go to penalties, as you said, and you thought the Ticos would actually snatch it. Can you once again use your carefully calibrated wonder, your ability to Hercadamus the future? Can we get a score prediction?
I think it's going to be very similar to the Costa Rica game. I really do, to what we saw at Costa Rica. I think the U.S. are going to give some defensive lapses, and Guatemala is going to be in this game fully. They'll probably get 1 or 2 goals, but I think the U.S. have found a little bit of that rhythm, and with a team that's going to allow you to have possession and probably step into the final third, they're going to get their chances. I actually think the U.S. pull this out in the same similar fashion, not penalty kicks, but I think we may see like a 3-2 type of game in a thriller here, and I think Guatemala is going to stand tall and proud and do their fan base, very well. I have the U.S. being favorites here. I really do. If they can command the moment and not let the fan base, the Guatemalan fan base, give them those jitters, I think the U.S. is going to have a hard-fought match here, but I see them overtaking Guatemala. I really do.
I see that. I do. I see a 2-1 win. By the way, the US, if they do not score early, that crowd are going to ramp up the pressure. The Guatemalan game plan will be to try and keep it tight, to let the crowd just create an electric atmosphere, put these young US chargers under immense pressure. It would be a remarkable thing if we can get that first goal. I see a Berhalter winner. Going to predict that. A big release. It's been a Copa of redemption. Max Austin gives away the goal. Max Austin scores the goal. Max Austin gives away a goal again. The Matt Freeze redemption. So it's just redemption. God bless you with every regard. I'd say to more. Herc, you're going to be there, right? You're going to be in St. Louis. What are you most looking forward to doing there?
I'm most looking forward to seeing the American fan base. I was in Austin for the U.S. game. The fan base that was there, those who went to that game, they're great. And I love seeing them. I went into a bar, right before to get some food, and it was a pro U.S. men's national team bar, and they all came and asked me questions. They talked. I enjoy seeing the fan base. I enjoy seeing the people get behind their team. I hope they get behind the U.S. men's national team. These boys need you. They don't have any international experience. They've never been here before. If you think it's just putting on that jersey and the Chapinas are going to see the red, white, and blue and roll over it, that's not going to be the case. They really need you. So I enjoy seeing the fan base. And let me just say, Mauricio Pochettino and the Americans, the U.S. men's national team, give a massive thank you to Guatemala for handling Canada, because you did not want to see Canada. Jesse Marsh, what they were able to not do was the greatest thing that ever happened to this U.S. men's national team.
God bless you in every regard. I can't wait. Honestly, I'm so unbelievably excited. Just listening to you thinking about St. Louis, it reminds me that there's a barbecue spot there, Salt and Smoke. And sometimes, a couple of times a year, the ribs that I ate there slip their way just peripherally into my dreams. I wish you incredible joy in that city. To all the fans travelling there, enjoy every second. I can't wait for this one. 7 p.m. Wednesday night. And then we'll be going live at the final whistle with Mr. Clint Dempsey for a live taping of The Deuce. Join us then on YouTube. Come be with us. Come be with Clint. Ask all your questions. I love taping that show. Honestly, I'm not sure my heart could cope with penalties again, Herc. I've got to be candid. And once again, reminder of next week's shows with the great Rory Smith and the Michelob Ultra Pitside Social Club right here in New York City. Come and have a couple of beers with us, watch the games, tape some shows, and talk about our love of the game. Goes down Tuesday and Wednesday during the Club World Cup Semifinals. You can find RSVP links in the YouTube and the pod description of this show. But to you, Big Herc, travel safely. Huge thanks. Big love, man.
Big love, Raj. Thanks again.
God bless. And to all of you listening, let's not take a second of watching football together for granted. Vamos and courage.